always knew it's about to happen to you. You'd leave now.
Some consider these traits to be toxic, such as undesirable in the men of today. We consider these traits such as these not only to be desirable, but to be appreciated and celebrated. Welcome to the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, hosted by and La Reina Creole. Welcome to the safe space for the toxic male.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Twitch channel. I'm Reina Creole, and of course, with me is her. How are you doing today, my dear?
I'm doing great, Lorena. It's always great to be here on Toxic Male Appreciation. How are you?
I'm doing great and doing great. Getting into the spirit of the season, even though it's 80 degrees outside outside here in Florida, but it's great. It's wonderful. Got a new PC finally up and running. So it may throw a little toddler tantrum because it's out of the box and it's actually got to work now. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to this show. Oh, because we've been away for I know we've been away for a little bit. Holidays, it's a little sporadic, but we are leaving you with one heck of a show until the new year
Hmm.
because we are going to be counting down, I guess, counting down, remarking on, recommending some very, very, very super manly Christmas movies, actually. So, yeah, because we talk about this on the show, and I think on other shows that we've been on we'll talk about how there's always this publicity with like, the romantic Hallmark cheesy Christmas movies, that are out there and you kind of see all of that and they're nice and they're fun. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. We need those Hallmark films for sure. We certainly do love those, but that has a slightly different nature and feel to them than what we're talking about today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those are more of like the nice romance novel, falling in love type of films, and they're very stretched out with the romantic plot being the centerpiece and kind of Christmas being the background. But in this case, we are talking about movies full of action, drama, comedy, gunfights, car chases, and in some cases, falling off of buildings that are all around the theme of Christmas. So, guys, we're kind of on your side a little bit, not a little bit. We are on your side with this. It's kind of like, okay, after you sit down, because this is how it works. After you sit down and you suffer to the point of toe curls watching those Hallmark movies, then you can say, you know what? Let's watch a Christmas movie that I want to pick. And it's okay. It's okay because you see these lovely ladies on YouTube co-signed on these movies. So I think we'll have a good fun. I think we'll have some good fun. So I would say so too because lots of these movies I believe both you and I have seen and enjoyed, and a couple that we haven't, but look very, very, very intriguing. So how about we get to it?
Yes.
All right. So 13 super manly Christmas movies. Now, this is from the website One Country. The fact that it's a country website should tell you this is going to be one hot, hot, hot list. Absolutely. So our first one here is trading places. Now, unless you, I guess, have been living under a rock or haven't watched a whole lot of syndicated television, Trading Places is one of those movies that is set in the backdrop of the Christmas holidays, and you've got oh my gosh. So you've got Eddie Murphy's character who is like down on his luck hustler. And then you have Dan Aykroyd, who is this very, very, very well off, well bred, with a lot of money stockholder. And through a certain set of circumstances, wind up trading places. Now, have you seen this film?
I sure have seen this film, and this really is for me one of those Christmas classics, Lorena. And I immediately, for some reason, I think about the Titanic because there's that element of where he doesn't have any money, but then all of a sudden he finds himself amongst the world's richest and wealthiest, most influential people. And Trading Spaces has this element of it too. As you already know, and many people who have seen it, Eddie Murphy plays somebody who is homeless, or let's say we don't know exactly what his background is. He's not wealthy. He's not a wealthy person. He's the average New Yorker, a hustler, even, if you will, very crafty. He probably could do anything. He's probably as clever as, let's say Andor is, but he's down on his luck, and it's New York, and it's at the height of, the Wall Street era. Remember, Lorena, New York, 1980s, where people were just throwing cash at stuff, but then there was a whole group of people who didn't have any money at all. And you would see these, Wall Street executives going to work every day, walking downtown into Wall Street with so much money, with so much stability and secureness. And then there was this other side, these other people who lived in New York, maybe the majority of New York, who didn't have money like that. And so I think it was very clever to kind of look at the sort of haves and have-nots during the season, because it's very easy to take someone, as they did in this film, change their clothes, change their look, change everything from head to toe, and put them in as kind of this Pygmalion kind of approach to, could he survive in that world? And I think it was just really so much fun to see these great comedians, these incredibly talented actors. Eddie Murphy looks like a teenager in this, right? Because he's very, very young.
Yes, I think he's in his 20s, I think, when this movie was filmed.
And he has so much spunk, so much excitement, so much enthusiasm. Maybe one of the most popular comedians at that time, when he was making this film, and a few years after when he made his Raw series. But certainly this is the type of stuff that rings so true, because it really was true to see the differences in wealth. It was so apparent, so obvious in something like this. It's and in some cases, the idea of this Christmas spirit, the idea that these particular individuals who were wealthy did not have any consideration for anyone else other than those who were in the club, being part of this club, this group of people who were so well off that everybody else didn't even exist. It's like they were the only ones in the universe. So that's why it very much reminded me of Titanic, when Jack gets in there and Rose says, oh no, I think it was the other lady, Molly, who says, you'd be part of the club, part of this club. And it really was true. It felt very, like, if you don't have these essentials, you can't be with these people. They don't care what you have to say. All they care about is how you look and how much money you have. And and just having fun with this, having fun. If you could do it, Lorena, if we could trade places, what would that be like? And the notion of the two, what was it? Was it $1 bet?
Yeah, it was $1. The Duke brothers, head of the trading house, Duke and Duke. I mean, these two old crusty Wall Street guys, played by, I think, Don Amici.
Yes.
And I'm forgetting the other gentleman's name, Ralph Bellamy. I think these two, first of all, they're amazing actors. And to have them in those roles of, this is what they all aspire, to be as rich, as the Dukes. And yeah, bet, a dollar bet of, well, if you take someone down on their luck and give them money, that would increase their status and they would actually be productive to society. Or, take someone who's very wealthy and then make them dirt freaking poor. What exactly would they do? And the poor butler who's just like, I can't believe I'm watching this nonsense. The butler is funny in this film, but you know what? You're absolutely right. That contrast of the very rich and the very poor. And then you have these two amazing comedians, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. It's perfect because one of the things that it does bring up, and we'll get to a toxic masculine trait, which is providing, the ability to provide. Most men are very proud of their ability to provide, whether it's for themselves or for their families. And one of the biggest strikes at a man's pride is when you take away his ability to provide, or building him up when you increase his ability to provide. And you see what that happens. So this is an old movie, and I'm trying not to give a lot of spoilers because you need to actually go and watch this movie. But one of the biggest plot devices is what happens to your romantic relationships when you get a lot of money or when you were rich and you lose it all.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And one thing I think that both you and I are trying to point out here too is that this isn't an era where you could go on YouTube and say, how do the rich behave, in Milford, Connecticut? What do I need to do to fit in? And they could tell you, well, this is where the main club is, and this is how you behave when you enter the door. You might want to have $500 in cash to tip people. There was nothing like that. Many of these wealthy individuals didn't have any kind of exposure or understand what life was like outside of that sphere, outside of that circle. But in
Mhm.
reverse was very apparent. As a person without money, you could see on TV this lifestyle that existed, that you were not a part of, that you weren't privy to. And of course, we hear of the wonderful
Oh, this was funny.
who ends up taking Dan Aykroyd in. And the reason why, something, Lorena, I think she takes him in is because he's a cute and sweet looking guy. And in New York, that's not a bad thing. People do stuff like this here. It's not 100% common, but he's not threatening her, trying to take her wallet, trying to beat her up. In fact, he looks like somebody who's down on his luck. And I think she thinks there's a little bit more to him. And so
Yeah.
it shows a little bit of judgment on her, because remember, she's on the street. So she already knows she can judge somebody right away. Maybe she thinks he's a John,
Mhm.
there's all sorts of things going through her mind, but she can tell that this guy is perfectly harmless, but he looks kind of cute.
Yeah. And it all goes on, from there. So folks, if you, again, this is like number 13, manly Christmas movies. There's enough in here for everyone. So your girl will be entertained. Trust me, you will both enjoy this movie, especially when you find out how Eddie Murphy's character and Dan Aykroyd's character, along with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, how they handle the Dukes. That's comedy gold right there, right there, that part of the movie.
There's some other connection. Oh, hi.
Oh, hey, I'll get these two really, really, really quick. Hey, Dad Man Walking 55. Hello. Good to see you, sis. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. And says about to drive, so will lurk. Please tell me Jingle All the Way made your list. That's probably going to be an honorable mention.
And Jingle All the Way is a great film. The thing I wanted to say, Lorena, is that there's this funny thing that happens in this film, and I can't remember if it's this film or the next film, but something about this film ties into another comedy film that has to do with money, and it does involve Bellamy and Amici. After, I think it might be after this film, something happens where they're in another film. Oh, I think it's Coming to America.
Yes, it is. It's Coming to America. Oh, one of the best cameos ever.
So,
Mortimer, we're
you know,
back.
yes, we're back. Like, it's very funny that they decided to play that role because it was a classic, because Eddie Murphy was in that film. And perhaps a lot of the guys who were in this film and Trading Places, in addition to Eddie Murphy, were also in Coming to America.
Yes.
Certainly Eddie Murphy had that tight connection with them that he knew he wanted to continue that cool, fun, masculine vibe to the film. And so I always, whenever I think about this film, I always think about Coming to America as well, Reina.
Absolutely. And Aurora Mandeville, who I do not believe I've seen her before, hello, says, hello, lovely ladies. How is everyone doing today? Well, so glad you're here. And we are doing fabulous, aren't we?
Yes, we are. It's another wonderful day. We get to talk about toxic males. Always a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is number 13, Trading Places. So let's see. Our number 12. Number 12 we have is a movie that I'm embarrassed to say I haven't seen before, and that is Reindeer Games.
I haven't seen it either.
I haven't seen it, but I have heard so many cool things about this movie. I wouldn't say that it's the most popular movie, but it's a cult class. Well, not cult class. I say coaster cult classic because I've heard so much about this film, but never got a chance to watch it. So apparently, assuming his dead cellmate's identity to get with the other man's girlfriend. Hey.
Well, she's free. She's not with the other guy anymore. So
yeah, it's like, we think you did. Yeah, I'm gonna get with you. I'm gonna get you with your girl. How many times have we seen that line? That plot in movies. But apparently, an ex-convict finds himself in a reluctant participation in a casino heist. Oh, okay, all right. I'm down with this one. Totally down with this one. Look who's in it. Ben Affleck, Gary Sinise, and Charlize Theron.
Yeah, all A-list actors, all people who still act more or less. Maybe Gary, not so much, but the three of them have had incredible careers.
Hey, Amanda. Said took a PTO today. Otherwise, I would have missed this. Oh, but glad you're here live.
Yes, absolutely. And when we look at films like this was sort of these classic films where we had these incredible talents early in their career. Ben, this might have been right after he did, I don't know when he did Good Will Hunting, but it wasn't too long after that. And I don't know whether this was after Charlize did that role where she played, one of her most famous roles where she played the woman who was a murderer.
Oh, Monster?
Yes. And Gary, coming off of, I think it was, what's that movie with Forrest Gump? I think he had just come off of Forrest Gump around this. So the three of them, really, their careers were, incredibly hot. Charlize is an incredible actress.
Absolutely.
Ben Affleck, from what I've watched in the trailer, he's getting totally taken advantage of here. He thinks he's fine. And unfortunately, he himself is being swindled in a way, but in the worst way. It's what they can take from him, and he doesn't want to give it up. And so that's the worst kind of swindle is, it's different when someone takes money and you're like, okay, the money's gone and they've left me alone. But this one is more of a, there's something that he possesses in his mind that they want. And that's very, very difficult to walk away.
Ooh.
It reminds me of Rogue One, honestly, when Jyn Erso's father had the ability to build a Death Star. And he was like, look, that's great. But I don't want to have anything to do with it. They're like, no, but you're going to have to come and build that Death Star. And so, it's that kind of weird thing. He didn't want to do it, but he's now in a situation where he has to. And he's so green, honestly. I know he was in prison and is an ex-convict, but he is pretty green. He looks very green here. He doesn't look like a very experienced. Gary Sinise is the one who looks like he's very experienced, and at least from the photos there.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's Lieutenant Dan.
Mhm. This man has got him by the balls. He's in Ben Affleck's kind of the pretty boy
Mhm.
in this, although he has done some wrong things in his life like everyone else. He's got a heavier price to pay. And Gary Sinise doesn't have any morals, as you can see in this. So he doesn't care from what from what I'm gathering. But um
Mhm.
it's really an intense situation. But I do like heist films, and especially something like this. He's coerced into this. It doesn't get any more toxic male than that, Lorena.
Wow. Oh, so folks, this is Reindeer Games. I love this scene right here.
And there's the holiday spirit
Is
here,
that
everybody.
Danny Trejo? I
Yes,
thought
it
that
is.
was him.
Mhm. That's Danny Trejo. I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but he's famous.
Clarence Williams the
Yes, that's
third.
yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. Yes, they do look young, don't they? Gosh. Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is maybe one of those holiday classics. Definitely something to enjoy. We've got to watch this one, Lorena.
We definitely have to watch this one because like I said, I've heard so much about it, never got a chance to watch it. So yeah, we're gonna have to check this one out for sure. All right, so that is Reindeer Games number 12. So now let's slide on over to number 11, which is I've never seen this movie. As a matter of fact, this movie came out like a long time ago. So the fact that I've only heard about it in legend, and that's the movie Black Christmas. Now, this is a movie from the 70s, 1974, stars Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, I'm probably saying that wrong, and
Mhm,
Margot Kidder.
mhm. Yeah, this one's a classic. I haven't watched this in ages, but Lorena, I believe this is based on a true story. And it's
Really?
about it's loosely based on something that happened. I believe it happened in Florida on a college campus where there was a serial killer who was killing young women, and they made it into a horror film, and I believe that that's what happened in this case. Anybody who's watching this, let me know if that's, but I'm pretty sure that's what this one was about. And it's absolutely terrifying, the idea of you think you're safe in your college dorm, only to find out that there's a stalker there killing everybody. Absolutely the last thing that you would think of that would be happening, and one of the
Mhm.
places you feel the most comfortable, most safe. The only people on the college dorm are the college students, right? Wrong. This guy has been stalking these girls, and unfortunately, it's a very, very dangerous time for them.
Wow. This is whew, man, if you've ever been in a sorority house.
Yeah, you feel safe. People leave the doors open, for heaven's sake.
Mhm. They do. They're just like, "Oh, we're on a college campus. What could possibly go wrong?" It's like that false kind of sense of security. And it
Absolutely.
seems like that's what they play into here, which for me is kind of interesting because it seems like every state university I went to was quite close to a state prison. So, we were pretty much on,
Mhm.
on guard,
Yeah.
quite
Refuse,
a bit.
doors locked, you can't get back in.
Mhm,
There's no key. If they lock the door, you can't get back into the dorm, and you can't sleep on the campus grounds. Like, you just can't do that. So if you can't get in before a certain time, you're locked out.
mhm. And you're just completely out of luck. Oh, so this seems to be one of those old school horror movies with a Christmas backdrop. I've never seen it, so you know me, I love true crime. So this is probably on the not probably, definitely. This one's definitely on the list. So if your tastes skew kind of like more horror for Christmas, I think this one seems to be a safe bet.
Yeah, and I love those the 70s setting with, the 70s look. It's
Mhm.
so it's like it feels very comforting to see that 1970s clothing and
Mhm.
the pork chop hair, the pork chop is called pork chops, right? Look at that. There's obviously the killer, uh,
Yeah.
peering over your
Wow.
bed as you are comfortable.
Mhm.
It doesn't get any it's a bit campy, but I believe it was based on a real life incident, so that's
Mhm.
even more significant and maybe even somewhat controversial to play these actresses who were in this horror thing, that whole new horror that was happening in the 70s, but this was real life. Wow.
And if I remember correctly, I think this came out around the same time as the one of the most iconic horror movies of the '70s, which would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Reina. It certainly was a fantastic era for horror. That it is it's not easy to go back and redo this. I've seen them redo the 80s horror genre, but the 70s is not as easy to recapture from that time.
Hmm.
So I think it is very interesting, getting this nice look of the killer there with the excitement in his face. He's excited. That's his excited look of knowing that he's about to kill her, and he's hoping
Mhm.
she doesn't run away because then he won't be able to kill you. He's actually looking at us, like the camera angle.
Yeah.
Um, that's terrifying.
And whew, Black Christmas. I've never seen it, but that's on the list for those of you who love that kind of horror
Mhm.
genre and Christmas. So boom, 2 in 1. There you go. So on to, I believe, number 10. Now, this movie I have seen, and frankly, I think it's a classic, and that would be Scrooged.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. This is maybe Bill Murray's at his peak, I think, coming off of the 70s with all those hits like Stripes and I can't remember what all the names of his 1970s comedies were, but certainly he was on a high in this. And I didn't know what to make of this, Lorena, when they first came out with Scrooge. But when I realized that it was very similar or, had a sense of, um, him having to play the role of Scrooge, but how would you do it for a top New York executive who just doesn't care about anything else and
Mhm.
just kind of wants to go on with his morning and day and doesn't want they're these really kind of funny. They made it into a comedy. It's Scrooge, but a comedy, and so there's all these toxic male things in it. Um,
Mhm.
that are just absolutely infectious with Bill Murray playing this. I guess you could say he doesn't care about anything but the success of his show. And if he has to throw $1 million to make the show more successful, he will. If he has to get those dancers that came out there, Lorena, where they were like, we can't have these outfits on. You can see their nipples. And I'm always
Mhm.
joking about that. I know I had said that John Paul Gaultier must have designed it.
Yeah.
But you can see my nipples. That's exactly what we're going for. This is what they were going for. And they're like, but this is a family show. We can't do that on a family show. Oh, right. Of course.
Didn't they
And
have Santa with a chainsaw or something
at the
something
same
like that? It was so crazy and so over the
over
top, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but Bill Murray played your classical 1980s TV executive with just toxic masculinity just flying everywhere. It's perfect. It's
it's perfect.
absolutely perfect. The perfect type of irredeemable,
Yes.
you would say, for A Christmas Carol. He's very much like Ebenezer Scrooge in the 19th century, but updated.
And Lorena, we were all glued to our seats. There are scenes in the film where even the other executives or the owner or these other executives are watching the Christmas show and they're all glued to their seats. This was the 80s. This is what we used to watch, was network television. That's what we watched. Even if you
Mm-hmm.
had cable, you were still going to turn on network TV and you would watch these Christmas specials. And
Yes.
this isn't pre-Hallmark. Hallmark still existed, but they wasn't as, the networks had a little bit more power than they have now, so to speak. And I think that what we were seeing in a lot of these tropes was the pressure on these executives to perform and have a show that's going to be spectacular. The pressure of being able, 120-hour work weeks. You remember this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was no wellness. You pretty much, there were people who were chain smokers, unfortunately, heavy drinkers at this time. This type of demand that they put on themselves and on performance levels, ratings,
Mm-hmm.
it really was something that I think they did a good job of showing,
Yes.
because there were a lot of times where there was very, very strong slapstick comedy, not just from him, but from the ghosts, the three ghosts. We got to see the harshness. I mean, like, I felt that was such a good balance against the craziness of what you're expecting him to do. It's like, okay, you're going to be up all night. Pow,
Yeah. Oh, because that was, yes. Carol Kane. Oh, she was my favorite ghost. She was my absolute favorite ghost. You did not expect
No.
that type of ghost. And I love, like, how you said all the ghosts that they were, instead of like the serious dour tone like they are, well, except for Christmas Present, he was always jovial, but the way that they put this comedy twist on the ghost was just absolutely perfect. Thanks, Dad Man. Have a good one. And Aurora Mandeville, of course, Amanda Pizzolato says they really liked him in this kind of role, huh? He was also in Groundhog Day, where he has to change or relive the same day over and over.
Mhm.
Yeah. This was one, I guess, when people think about Bill Murray's most beloved roles, this is one of them. In Scrooged.
Absolutely. And it while it is updated, it doesn't deviate from the general story. Alfre Woodard plays the executive. There she is.
Mm-hmm.
Executive assistant. She's not a secretary. She's not a sec. So at that time, and Lorena, you remember, I remember in my high school that there were a bunch of young women who wanted to become business professionals and they wanted to be these executive secretaries.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't the person's, like, it was a high level position. You were responsible for a lot of things. And that's what this woman's character plays, but she's not getting paid what she should. And I think it was very interesting that, she found herself in this position where she hadn't bargained for what she
Mm-hmm.
rightfully deserved, considering she was doing just as much work as the other executives were doing. So although she's his, let's say his subordinate, she's if not doing as much work, if not more work than all of them, she could run the whole thing. And there she's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like getting coffee, like it's very menial. But the Bill Murray character knows very well that she's capable of doing everything he can. So there isn't that. I think that's why sometimes he might speak to her or talk to her, and you're getting this impression that she's just someone who fetches him coffee. She's not. She's working her ass off, making sure this entire show runs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nothing
so
works without her.
yes, and that's very relevant, where she was in that position, and so there, I felt that was kind of interesting that they decided to throw that in there. But Bill Murray does have a heart in this film, but he's tough, Lorena. This guy's tough. I love those tough '80s executives. What about you?
I do. They pulled absolutely no punches. They were just like, we have a job to do, and I don't care who I have to step on to get it done. We need to be first. We need to be ahead of these things. You need to all fall in line. I mean, it wasn't, let's have a discussion about your feelings. It wasn't, did you misgender me? It's just like, did I call your name or not? Do your job. It was just, that's exactly, what it was like. And I think a lot of people, especially the younger generation now, especially with streaming, don't remember just how crazy network television is. Like you were saying earlier, you were literally in front of the television at a certain time, unless you had a DVR or something like that. Guess what? You missed it. But you had these people calling these shots and making these decisions, because if they screwed up, they were going to get fired. So I love how Bill Murray played this hard-nosed executive, but he knows he can't do his job without Alfre Woodard. And there's a part in the film where he sees part of her life that he wasn't privy to, and you could tell, even though he tries to play it off, just how much it affects him.
As the one of the characters would say, Niagara Falls,
Yeah.
I want to
Niagara Falls. I think it was the guy who was the
yeah.
taxi driver.
Yes. And the other thing I wanted to mention, to add on to what you were saying, Lorena, is the reason why Bill Murray doesn't lose his job is because of her. Because you remember, there's always another executive there's always someone who's better.
Yeah.
It's just true. Like, it's like, oh my God, what did that person do? They saved 1,000 lives. Like, there's always someone better, right? And Bill Murray doesn't realize the asset that he has in her, but eventually that comes to play when he's the one who, when push comes to shove in the story, when everybody has to make a decision as to who they're going to back, they end up backing Bill Murray's character because of Alfre Woodard. And the Bobcat, you remember Bobcat kind of like takes everybody hostage,
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love Bobcat in this.
I think that the reason why they complied was because of Bill Murray's association with Alfre Woodard. And if he didn't have that, if he was just kind of a standalone person, didn't have anybody who was genuine, who would stand behind him, they would have gone to the other guy. They would have gone with the other executive and pushed him out. And that's something that, he was always fearful of. So I think the fostering of relationships, which so many of these executive males do anyway, is very important to see that kind of cooperation.
Exactly. And I'm going to land on this picture last, because the reason that I like this picture, that I like this shot, is because when we talk about the original Christmas Carol, you remember Scrooge was visited by his old dead partner,
Yes.
Jacob Marley. Okay. Bill Murray's character gets visited by his mentor, who was another TV network executive.
I love it.
And it is amazing. It is amazing. And this scene here is when it's like, it's not a joke. But the comedy timing was so good that then the time this scene showed up, you were like, oh my God. Oh, okay. Yeah. He's like, all right. It's real. But I just loved how they kept true to the spirit of the Charles Dickens novel,
Yes.
but updated it for modern times at the time. I mean, what could be so close to like a money lender in like the 1980s, a TV network executive? Oh man. So folks, you definitely have to check out Scrooge. I love it. I almost want to say, well, I will kind of say it is a movie for the whole family, but lots of positive and some negative toxic male stuff in there. But hey, you know how we do it on the show. There's a balance, which is, if you look back at it, which is what A Christmas Carol is all about. There
Yes.
is that balance between negative, what the negative consequences of avarice and swindling people are, balanced by a lot of the positive traits of providing for one's family and wanting to protect those who are more vulnerable than you are. So this is great. This is perfect. It has a great message of family. It has a great message of just wanting to eventually be a better version of yourself, which is again goes right back to the Dickens novel. That's why we love it so why we love it so much. Let's see. Amanda has a really, really good comment. If only movies nowadays did a better job at updating classics.
Yeah, I agree. We are missing that spirit. We're missing that soul, as you would say, Lorena. We're
Hmm.
missing all of that. A lot of these remakes feel very soulless. And I think it's because we're not seeing those relationship. To see the relationship, it was hard
Hmm.
to watch Bill Murray's character, not give Alfre Woodard what she deserved, or know that he hadn't been.
Right.
That was hard to watch, and we need to see those things in order to understand what's going on. It can't be like, well, I pushed through a raise for you and I'm sorry it didn't work out, but I'm talking about my feelings now and things are good. No, no one would ever say that.
No.
She would know that she got dogged and it wasn't right, and he has to make it right, and he has to know that morally he messed up. it,
Hmm.
can't- it can't be, we're going to talk this out. No. No, it has
No.
to be a real conversation that you have with someone. You did this wrong. This was wrong, and you shouldn't have done that. But when they change this into, let's make it a lesson of how people can talk to one another and work things out, and I'm like, no, that's completely missing the point of the whole story.
Exactly. Exactly. And to kind of add to that with something that just came out this month, Apple TV has something like this, like Scrooged, but it has, I think, Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell is in it. And I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but I did sit and watch it, and it was fun to look at, but I would say did not have the same soul
Oh,
as Scrooge. Kind of like when I watched it, it's like, it's a nice try, but nah, it's not on the same order as Scrooge. As far as I'm concerned, there are only two Christmas movies that are good successors to A Christmas Carol. One would be Scrooged, and the other would be The Muppet Christmas Carol. It would be
fair
those 2.
enough. Fair
Those
enough.
2.
Mhm.
All right, so on to number 9, which is a movie that, I haven't seen for decades.
Oh
Well, I
my
shouldn't say
gosh.
decades, maybe like 10 years. It's been a long time since I've seen it. It's from one of my favorite action franchises, and frankly, you guys are gonna love this. No mistaking, there's toxic masculine traits in this, and that would be Rocky 4.
Agreed. Agreed. It is an instant yes. I can't say enough about it. Of course, absolutely. Yes, I think this is an excellent uh, one on the list. Honestly, Drago, who is this at the time. The Russians were our enemies. I mean, I'm not even quite sure what the story is now, but let's just say when the film was made in the 80s, we were in the middle of this Cold War thing, and there was,
Mhm,
you know, push or pressure where anything Russian was a threat. I mean, the film wasn't just about him boxing and winning this match. It was about the United States versus Russia. And so there was that heavy or at least notion of that a defeat would mean that it was a victory for the United States. So there was a little more at stake. While it is true, Sylvester Stallone was amazing in this. Um, you know, um, everybody who was in it was amazing. That notion of kind of men um, protecting the country in a
mhm,
boxing point of view was incredibly significant because Rocky wasn't just fighting locally or making it anymore. This was this notion of being an international hero,
mhm,
protecting democracy, across the planet. It had that feeling to it, and not every boxing match or movie has that feeling, Lorraine. It was certainly something that felt, very strong and powerful for this man to become a symbol of. And I thought that was incredibly significant in the film for me.
mhm. I know for me, because I grew up in suburban Philadelphia. It's all about Rocky. From his like beginnings, like looking at this here, it's just like this isn't like what Rocky came from. He came from South Philadelphia, broke to fight his way out. And now it's just like he's living a life that he never thought that he would make. And it's kind of like in Philly, it's like going like say living in South Philadelphia to now you're living the life in like say Center City. It's like it's extremely it's such a contrast. But the fact that this guy came from such humble beginnings, it's like it's again the classic masculine trait of wanting to do better, fighting your way up to do better so you can provide for those who you love and care for. But at the same time, continuing to challenge yourself and facing life's challenges.
Absolutely. And of course, the scene right here is where Apollo Creed, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately gets killed by Drago, right? Lorraine, if I
Yes,
remember correctly.
exactly.
And this was, very, as I've often said, one of the most toxic male scenes that you and I've ever seen is the scene of Apollo, of Carl Weathers and of course Sylvester Stallone running on the beach together. I think it's them. And
Yes, it
they're
is
running
them.
in unison. They're running in unison. I think it's that, flying high now, like
I know, I love it.
and they're running in unison. And as they're running, it's like you can see their legs running together, and they kind of zoom in on the legs as they're kind of pumping. And I'm like, this is so incredibly toxic male. This is so sexual. This is so masculine.
All
This
the
is so
muscles and you
testosterone.
just oh my God. It's
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, you wanna watch that scene with your girl. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do. I mean, it is definitely an
Mhm.
inspiring scene. I think that it shows the beauty of men. I think it's absolutely just remarkable what they were able to do in focusing in on something of two men who are at peak performance, who pushed their bodies to the limit, who made themselves look incredible. And we noticed these things. This was one of the hardest parts to watch in the film, Lorena, right here.
It
I'm still not
was
over it. I'm still not over it.
it's it was a gut punch. Whoever says that men do not have feelings, that men do not feel sadness, that men do not cry, you need to watch this scene in Rocky 4 when Carl Weathers goes when his character goes down. I mean, it's just the look on Rocky's face and
Mhm.
everything involved, and you see you know what? It's like you need to watch. You need to watch that because not only is that such a powerful scene, this Rocky basically this guy was literally his enemy for a while
Mhm.
and now his friend. And to see how his friend got taken out. And I remember Drago's line, if he dies, he dies.
Not
You
cool.
no, not cool. You have to watch that. It is one of the most beautifully shot and acted scenes uh in movie history. I will say that without a doubt it is because even though I haven't seen this movie for years, I remember that scene.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. And a lot of people had debated as to whether that was the right move, the right choice to make for the franchise.
Mhm.
Should you pull off such a significant character, but it certainly was impactful, something that none of us will forget. I think maybe the best performance by Carl and by Sly, and Dolph, all three of them had to be in on this to make it work and
Yeah.
believable. It was devastating. And it really did feel like things, you know, something had, it felt like we had lost, honestly, losing Carl Weathers is bad enough, but it felt like a different type of blow. Certainly it was morale crushing as well as
Mhm.
incredibly tragic. It was morale crushing, and sometimes morale can help you in a fight. Sometimes you need that to get
Mhm.
even in the ring. State of mind and all these things. The mental fight is important. The mental fight is sometimes as important as the physical fight. And
Absolutely.
this was, so incredibly devastating.
Mhm.
Really, just oh my goodness, yeah.
But to see Sylvester Stallone, to see Rocky in those training montages in the snow in Russia, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. You need to watch it. You need to watch it for yourself. Whew, Lord, I could still picture that right now.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Oh, and actually, they used a reference to Rocky 4 in season 5 of Cobra Kai. That's all I'm gonna tell you. That's all I'm gonna tell you. All right, so now we are on to, I believe, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, number 8. Number 8 is one where I think I saw a long time ago in syndication. And this is a very old, I'm going to say very, very old because it's film history. And it's from 1955 called We're No Angels. And it stars Humphrey Bogart, Aldo Ray, and Peter Ustinov.
Yes, I haven't seen this in ages, but I have seen, and I feel like I'm digressing here, the remake with Robert De Niro and Sean Penn.
Yes, I did see that one.
Yes, yes. Certainly, yeah, it is something to think about, but I haven't seen this one, Lorena, in ages. I'm sure it's been on Turner Classics this year.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. It's like I remember seeing like bits of it, but the one that I actually saw was the one that you were talking about, the remake with Robert De Niro and with Sean Penn.
Yes. Obviously this idea of these essentially these escapees who are hiding that they're escapees. So what's going to be their new identity because they're wanted men. And
Mhm.
I think they keep finding kindness wherever they go. In this case it's a merchant for We're No Angels. In the version that you and I saw from I think it was the 90s, in that case it was in a monastery.
Yes.
And there's kindness wherever they go, and there are points, and I believe in this one too, where they can actually tell the truth, but then it goes away. Like it's I always
Mhm.
say it's like these messages that they're getting. These messages are saying, hey, you've got to tell the truth now. Oh, no, 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 it's fine. Okay, no one needs to know. But gee, that one was really close. That last one was really close. We have to, at some point we're going to have to tell the truth. But this one is the ultimate hustle. They
Mhm.
fell into this, and they're doubling down, they're tripling down. It's like
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's like he sticks out like a sore thumb.
I mean, sure. And of course, while the merchant is kind, he also knows. I'm not going to say he knows everything these guys have done, but he's not a fool either.
Yeah.
So that is something else that I think the convicts may feel like they're completely um, gotten one over on them. But these monasteries also know that this stuff happens, so they're not completely cloistered and completely devoid of interacting with the public, so to speak. So
Mhm.
so there is that. But certainly is another one, another classic that
Yeah.
rightfully is on the list.
Wow. I love the color restoration with these. Yes, so that's We're No Angels. So I
Mhm,
would actually, I mean, you could see the one with Robert De Niro and Sean Penn, but honestly, I would say watch this one
mhm.
just for the fact that it's the original. I love watching
Absolutely.
older movies. So that is number 8. So we're gonna go to Number 7, which is one of my favorite action movies, and that would be
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
1987. This movie never, never, never gets old, and love watching it around Christmas, especially for a certain scene, which I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Um,
Classic.
I don't know whether there's been as successful of a cop team since Glover and Gibson. And I don't know whether we're going to get another one that is um, as successful or as good of a match. You know, they both are really stand out equally in the film,
Mm-hmm.
which is also something that's very hard to do. You know, in a role like this, they redefined or maybe modernize this sort of like buddy cop idea
Mm-hmm.
for a modern audience, so to speak. And you know, I think that Glover he's so polished, isn't he? He's a polished police officer,
Yes.
and he, you know, has the ability to, you know, he can knock you out, but he's, you know, he's kind of really committed to following the rules of the law. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he represents that authority in a way that I think maybe the Gibson character had never been challenged in this way before. And so this is this inner struggle for an individual in law enforcement of, well, this is within the limits of the law, but we know this person's a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we approach this? And they play the inner conflict, and it's actually between the two of them. You know, so you know, Glover has all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. You know, Mel Gibson has a few guns loaded and maybe one or two under the bed, and another one, you know, like uh
Mm-hmm.
underneath underneath the cupboard somewhere, you know, like it's kind of very interesting to watch the two of them. But um just even this shot alone, like we're not really seeing this level of passion in movies, are we?
No, this was like good cop, crazy cop. I mean, seen good cop, bad cop, but this was like good cop, totally nuts cop. Like, you don't want me to leave you alone with dude because you may wind up, who knows, you may be missing a couple fingers by the time I gotta come back. And that was like the type of cop that we really hadn't seen before, especially in the buddy, kind of like the buddy comedy. So that worked so well, just the juxtaposition of Danny Glover. He's straight laced, by the book. I mean, he's got the triple breasted suit on in LA at the time. Mel Gibson's just like, yeah, whatever. Just rolls up, you see him with the gun holster and everything. And it's just so much fun. And you just see just like the testosterone one up in the other, and it just escalates and just ratchets up, and the comedy relief is too funny, especially when they take Mel Gibson to Danny Glover's house.
Yes, I love that part.
It is so it's so
Mhm.
funny, unapologetically masculine. The action scenes are insane. This is one of the classic action movies. It's great. I mean, like you were saying, we haven't seen anything close to this. I wanna say, haven't seen anything close to it. A little bit in the movie called The Other Guys in the beginning where you had Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock. Yeah, that's about as close as got, but they haven't really been able to capture the lightning in the bottle with the Lethal Weapon series.
And these are two, I've heard of alpha males. These guys might be alpha males. Um,
Yes.
Both of these guys could run whole units. They could do special operations. You know, they have some of them have a history, right? Some of them have a history in the story of
Mhm.
that. They've both experienced situations where their families and their lives are in danger. He's got a Serpico feel to it. I mean, it's not exactly the same situation.
Mhm.
Serpico was, you know, involved in investigating crimes in his own precinct, but the boldness of where Serpico gets shot and how what the circumstances are. They say, we want you to go in that room and apprehend this prisoner. And it's a setup. Like, there's a lot of situations where these guys find themselves in setups. And I think it was pretty significant because that might be the reality of dealing with crime, kind of a modernization of, well, it's not just going to go according to plan, is it? I mean, that's ridiculous to think that's how it's going to go down, but they can handle it. They know what to do.
Right.
You and I were watching something the other day where someone was thrown into a pool and they had their hands and legs tied. And I said, they're trying to kill him. But you know something? There's a scene in Lethal Weapon where, or at least in one of the Lethal Weapons, where the Mel Gibson character is in that situation. And he gets out, Lorena. He gets out of that. And I thought for sure he was a goner. I thought he was gone. I thought that was the end of it. But he wasn't. So I think it's very interesting that it's definitely something about, having these strong male figures who know what to do in these difficult and very dangerous situations. They don't give up. They don't.
No, they keep going, even though they were like at odds in the beginning. By the end, it's just like, that's my partner, that's my brother. I would go through hell and fire to go and get him. And like, and likewise. So again, very positive depictions of men. It's like, even if you're kind of little loose up there, you're still in the end, you're still trying to do the right thing. A very positive depiction of fathers, especially with Danny Glover.
Yes.
And and his kids. And great movie. I cannot recommend it enough. Like I said, I love Danny Glover's wife and how everybody seems to be scared of her.
Yeah. Absolutely. And he's they're showing him he's a Black man. He has his family together. That was also a very positive message to show at the time.
Absolutely.
Even Mel Gibson's character, who, let's say, has dealing with issues, like he's gone through a lot, still able to relatively hold it together. Although one of the themes that they talked about in the story was him wanting to kill himself. And, that was something that we know happens. We know that there's a certain number of police officers who do, especially around the holidays, end up committing suicide.
Yeah.
And, I think that they wanted to deal with that. They wanted to address that. And I thought that was kind of important because we know in the 80s, nobody talked about any of that stuff.
Not at all. It was like something you kind of just like kept under wraps. You didn't really talk about. So having it like out in the open, especially with a movie like Lethal Weapon, extremely therapeutic and actually, informed a lot of people about that. And I love how Danny Glover's character, his family just kind of like adopted Mel Gibson, in a way. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He did need it. You could see through Mel's acting, like when he was there at the house, it seemed like the most stable thing that he'd had in a long time.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think it is very cute and very realistic to show when he brought Mel Gibson home for dinner. Like his daughter was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" Of course she is. We need to see women interacting with men in a realistic way. Of course she's looking at this guy. We have to acknowledge that there may be some attraction. She's gonna notice him. He's a man. We notice you guys. This is these films where it's like walking by, you don't even notice. It's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, hot guy. Yeah. We're gonna notice. We're gonna notice that. All right. So now we are going to move on to pick number 6. Another one of my old school favorites, and that would be Gremlins. I love this movie. Love this movie so much. One of my other favorite Christmas movies as well. Young man, hardworking. His dad brings him a present, but comes with instructions, right?
Yeah, and this is no Yamaguchi. This one is much more serious. It's a living creature. And I think that this notion of Zach Galligan playing this young man, having a creature like this, and having this, this responsibility of, what does it mean to keep this creature?
Mhm.
Lorena, there were scenes in here where I thought like everything was over, like the pool scene.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was the end of it. Like they were never going to get this under control. The scene where, he accidentally pours water. I mean, it's, I can say this. It's an accident. It was, I guess, carelessness, if we're going to put it that way,
Yes, it was.
where he creates another gremlin, not gremlin, but
Another Mogwai.
Mogwai.
Yeah.
And this other Mogwai is not like the one he has. And so, I think that cleverness of, so each one of these rules has to be broken so we can experience what happens, the payoff at the end. Like I said, the pool scene, I thought that was it. I thought the whole town, like, it's over. Everybody's going to die. This is really out of control. And it really had this somewhat comforting cascading effect of, what can happen when everything goes wrong. But it was playful. And I got a chance to see this at a Comic-Con last year on the big screen, Lorena, because I had never seen the film in a movie theater or on a large screen. And so they showed it. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was very, very different than watching it on television. And I thought to myself, wow, some films need to really be seen on a big screen. Gremlins is one of them. Certainly, it is a comedy, it's fantasy, it's horror, but it is a lesson. You're learning this lesson. And the Mogwai, Gizmo is still alive. Like he still has to take care of him. So, he has this responsibility. He learned his lesson, but Gizmo, he keeps Gizmo, or does the man take Gizmo back?
He comes and he takes him back. Yeah, spoiler for y'all if you haven't seen it. The movie's been out for ages. Should have seen it by now.
Yes.
But when and I'm forgetting the name of the guys, the Asian gentleman they call themselves buying the Mogwai from, he comes back and he takes him and basically says, you're not ready because you don't understand responsibility. And I think paraphrasing, what he had now was experience because the rules got broken. So he had to experience just all the turmoil that was going to happen instead of being responsible enough to not let these rules be broken. Now, of course, if the rules weren't broken, we wouldn't have a story. So, of course, that's there. But one of the things that I do love about this movie is it does teach a very permanent lesson.
Yes.
Gizmo got taken away at the end, but before he got taken away, he actually spoke. And that made it so hard when he says, bye, Billy. I'm like, oh God, I'm starting to cry.
You make a good point of this. He knew what was going on, and he could see what was happening. And Gizmo is going to be like, well, it's going to happen next, right, Billy? Like, he's
you fed, you got water on me. You weren't supposed to get water on me. And, and then you fed these boogers, after midnight, which is not good. And why am I missing a rule? Maybe I'm just
no.
I know you couldn't get them wet, couldn't feed them after midnight.
And that was, I think that was it. Because remember, then after midnight they changed.
There was a third rule.
All right, I'll look it up.
That's pretty bad that I can't remember that.
No.
I just remember not getting them wet, not feeding them.
Don't expose them to sunlight.
Yes, and don't expose them to sunlight. Yeah, because it's bright light. That was the first one, I think, when they said, when he said, "Oh, I'm going to take a picture," and the flash freaked him out.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I wanted to mention to add on to what you're saying, Lorena, is this is also an example of an older male trying to show the way to a younger male of responsibility, and so that was also very important. Someone has to, in fact, they have down here, a young man inadvertently breaks 3 rules. There has to be someone who can show him the way. That was not his father.
No,
There
no.
are males out there, older males, who are showing the way to younger males about what it means to be a man, what it means to have responsibility,
Hmm.
what it means to be a man, to be a man. What does that entail? And we saw that in this film.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the guy's name. He was the neighbor, and he was the World War II vet. He's like, yeah, gremlins. We used to see those all the time, on our ship, and no one believed him.
Mhm.
No one believed him, until the end when he comes running in on I think he was on a bulldozer, I think, when he came in. But yeah, this was such a fun film, horror comedy. All I'm gonna say is you're gonna love watching this film. Of course, there's a love story dimension. Of course, young man trying to impress, a young lady. So that's in
Mhm.
there as well. But this is fun. There's a reason why this movie is such a classic around Christmas and horror, but mainly because it's Christmas, you really start looking for the Gremlins movie. I remember watching this and my sister hiding under the couch, and I'm laughing at her because I'm like, "Why are you so scared?" Oh, right. So we're gonna move on to movie number 5, and that would be A Christmas Story. Now, have you seen this movie?
I have seen this movie a number of times, and it's just absolutely wonderful. It feels very autobiographical, of this young child and his Christmas memories that are just so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a mean bone in this kid's body, and he's just talking about his experience growing up in what seems to be a very happy childhood home, and wanting just the simple, happy pleasures of Christmas that his parents are, providing to him. I just think it's just such a Christmas classic, and such a wonderful film.
Yeah, I have seen this. Honestly, I didn't see it until maybe about three years ago.
Mhm.
And all I can think of is just the kid getting his tongue stuck to the to the flagpole. God, that was hilarious.
Mhm.
It was just funny, but yeah, it's such a heartwarming, realistic in a way, story. And yes, like you're saying, it's like you have the narrator, which actually is Ralphie, so it has like that autobiographical feel to it. It's it's not a very tight it's a fun and not very tidy Christmas at the same time. There's just so many things that go wrong, but so many things that go right at the same time. So this is definitely worth watching. You've got, a father who, and I'll say, maybe a little bit of a workaholic, but I believe he's a traveling salesman, and he's very much into trying to be the best salesman he can to provide, for his family. Like I think Ralphie almost broke his glasses, and it's just like, oh, I can't because they cost so and so amount of money, and my dad's gonna be mad. And so very, very, again, a very positive depiction of fathers and about family, especially family that can be a little nuts. The end scene where they end up for Christmas, it's just,
Mhm.
it's too funny. It's too funny.
And his father, kind of being very cool on Christmas morning, where he coyly asks Ralphie, "Did you get everything you wanted for Christmas?" And Ralphie knows better. Yes. Ralphie knows better than to say no. And here, of course, is the remainder of what would have been their delicious dinner. So close and yet
Hmm.
far, right?
Yeah.
Um, Ralphie knows very well not to say he didn't get what he wanted. He says, "Yes, I got everything I wanted, Dad." And his father's response to that is just classic. Yeah, that turkey does look really good.
Yes. Yes.
Aw,
Yeah, and he almost kind of shot his eye out.
that's right. He's so adorable.
He really is. And I never really understood all the hype around this movie. I'm like, is it really, that good? And then, like I said, a couple years ago, I finally sat down and watched it, and it was such a fun watch. I know there's a quote unquote sequel that I think it's on Hulu. I haven't watched it all. I started watching it and I think I wound up falling asleep. It was like late. I was tired and I fell tired and I fell asleep. But kind of starts off with the same type of, good feel story. So it'll be interesting to watch the sequel. But don't watch the sequel before you watch this one first.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna move on to number 4. This movie, I feel a little ashamed that I like this movie as much as I did for so many reasons, and that would be Bad Santa.
Yeah.
Have you seen this movie?
I have not seen this movie. I
Oh
have not
my
seen
god.
this.
I can't stop laughing. This movie, Santa has 0 bleeps to give at all. Totally, at all. You've got Billy Bob Thornton, who is basically a con man, and he has his little buddy there, his friend right there, posing as Santa's little helper. So this is kind of like a scam that they run like every year. You
Oh.
know how you have the mall Santa and the elf. So apparently this is their con going on with the mall Santa and the elf, and they have it planned so that Christmas Eve they basically rob the whole entire store, because by the time that they're done, because like from Thanksgiving Day to like Christmas Eve, they're working crazy hours. So by that time, they already know the whole store, case the whole joint. I mean, it's brilliant. It's like, oh my gosh, that really is, an absolutely cool, not cool, but wow, that's a well thought out, kind of con. But Santa likes to drink a lot. Santa is also into public urination. Santa also throws up on people, and Santa likes ladies of the evening. So he's he's so flippin' irredeemable, but comes across this overweight kid being bullied,
Aw.
and it all goes on from there. He's like trying to run this con, but he's attached to this kid, and just does a whole bunch of stuff where you're just like, this is a really, 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 really bad Santa. Oh, Amanda, you hadn't heard of Bad Santa? We, in a way, we kind of should watch this.
Yes, we should. We should.
It literally, I mean, just like, oh my God, this Santa is freaking horrible. But like I said, the story wrapped up in there is there's this overweight kid who's bullied, doesn't have a dad at home, lives with his grandma, and Bad Santa is basically his role model. So it's kind of between him being a role model to this kid or being dedicated to the con that he's supposed to pull off and then be out of town by Christmas Eve. But yeah, this movie, I love it for I shouldn't one of the reasons that I love it is because Bernie Mac is in it. The
Yeah, I can see
late
that.
Bernie Mac is in it, and Tony Cox, if you've ever seen the movie Friday,
Mhm.
he's probably one of the most famous black little people that you will ever see, especially as I think, what was it, like was it the portable stenographer skit in the Dave Chappelle show? He was in that. But the comedy timing in this movie, it's genius. Bernie Mac, as you know, is a comic genius. So between him, Tony Cox, and Billy Bob Thornton, it is one of the most insane, twisted Christmas movies I've ever seen.
It looks hilarious. I can't wait to check this one out. Certainly, I do like dark Christmas comedies. I love stuff like this. So this one sounds like it would be perfect to watch, Lorena, and get you back into that Christmas spirit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just oh, man, the first 5 minutes, that's all I'm gonna say. First 5 minutes, but yes, this is bad. Sandy's like, "Oh, this kid peed on me. This kid peed." Oh, yeah. So that's Bad Santas. Because speaking of bad Santas, now there's a movie that you saw recently. What
Yeah.
would that be?
The movie is called Violent Night. It's a new film that came out. It's still in the theaters, actually. I don't know the release date, but I went to see it literally last night.
Mhm.
I didn't know what the film was going to be like. What I can tell you is that I knew that the gentleman from Stranger Things, um, who plays the father, I believe his name is what is his name? David Harbour, plays Santa in this film. And it is a film that, if I could best describe it, is a
Mhm.
combination of Home Alone,
Mhm.
Die Hard, and National Lampoon's Vacation all rolled up into one.
Wow.
Mhm. And I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be violent because the name of the film is called Violent Night.
Right, right.
So I was fine with that. I was fine with that. What I didn't know was that Santa is a badass. I didn't know that. What I didn't know, ironically, Beverly D'Angelo is also in the film. Um,
Really?
she's in the film. She plays one of the matriarchs of the family that is affected by what's going on. And it actually plays into some of Santa's folklore, depending upon where you think St. Nicholas came from, or
Mhm.
Pierre Noel, Papa Noel, however you describe Santa Claus. It plays into some of Santa Claus's history before he was Santa Claus, before there was a Santa Claus. It also plays into Christmas spirit and the meaning of Christmas. Um, not unlike what we saw with Guardians of the Galaxy's Christmas special, some of those
Mhm.
elements are in Violent Night. Now, I do want to tell you that this film is 100% toxic male because of the violence in it, Lorena. I saw bones
Mm.
cracking, skulls crushing, blood flowing. Lorena, I had no idea you could use Christmas decorations as first aid. I had no idea, Lorena. Who knew the tinsel could be so lethal? But what I can tell you is that there wasn't a minute of this film that I wasn't in so much happiness of watching something that was fun and
Mhm.
playful and perfect casting, just everything about the film. Boy, it got me into the Christmas spirit, Lorena, and I wasn't expecting that. I want to sing Christmas carols for that film.
Wow, that movie sounds kinda like Fat Man was last year.
Mhm. Yes.
Violent
Yes.
Night. Okay. I
Mhm.
had to put
Yeah.
that one on my list. So yeah, you probably wanna either see Bad Santa before or after, but you probably wanna watch those together. I think that
Mhm.
sounds like a good double header. So yes, that is number 4, which is just Bad Santa. Now we go on to number 3, which causes so much debate, but I am firmly on the side of the fact that this is a Christmas movie. Fight me, and that would be Die Hard.
Well, the end of the film is at the end of the film or the beginning of the film, Bing Crosby sings Let It Snow. Am I right, Lorena?
You are absolutely right.
Yeah. So, who could forget the Nakatomi Towers?
Oh, yeah.
Who could forget a hot young Bruce Willis, the sexy cop who's coming to LA to see if he can make his relationship work with his wife, who he's somewhat separated with.
Mhm.
And certainly, it hasn't lost its popularity, Lorena. I watch it every Christmas, every year. I love this film. I think that it certainly is in the spirit of Christmas because it's about a man who goes to Los Angeles and finds himself in a situation where he needs to protect his wife. He wants to save her life. This is what Die Hard is about. And there's nothing is going to stand in his way for protecting his wife. Absolutely nothing. And that's how you know it's going to work out. At least you suspect it may work out between them. But the point is this sacrifice that he's willing to make, the sacrifice he's willing to make to save her life. He's going to sacrifice everything he can to make sure that this woman who he's been estranged from, who he really loves very much, will get out of there alive. There is nothing more toxic male than Die Hard to me. What do you think, Lorena?
100% right. Especially at near the end of the movie where he's all cut up, bruised. I think one part, I think he got shot, but he looks like a hot mess. He's walking around, he's like barefoot, blood coming out. He's got a bloodstained wife beater on. He's walking around saying, Holly, and he's calling his wife's name. And he's like, he called her Holly. And she finally looks around, she sees me. She's like, oh, freaking love that. One of the most romantic scenes ever. Fight me. I loved it. It is such an unapologetically toxic movie. I mean, just starting out at the beginning, you know, the way that he's like not too happy to find out that she's listing her name as Holly Gennaro, which is her maiden name and not her married, her married name.
And in the 80s, you didn't do
oh
that.
Yeah, you didn't really do that. That was a personal offense if you were a married woman and you're not using your married last name. And like you were saying, they were estranged, weren't exactly talking very nicely to each other. But then again, stuff happens, terrorists take over, and your priorities get in line real fast when that happens.
Absolutely. And they also didn't fake that their relationship was fine, because what did it take? 30 seconds for them to get into debate as to why she left, why, he shouldn't be there, why she should have stuck by him. It took about 30 seconds. Next thing you know, you hear her saying, well, it's about what our relationship is supposed to be. And then I'm like, oh, this is serious. Like, they have resolved this yet. Like, it's not like, well, it's so great to see you, let's make it work out. No,
it was a lot. Oh Lord, that 80s hair. The 80s hair and shoulder pads. Oh, yeah. Yes, it was very real, because at this point in time, especially in the 80s, divorce and separation wasn't something that was kind of like hush hush or whatever. And it seems like Hollywood kind of went the other way, and they just like let it all out there. No, I can't stand you, I never was happy. And you just see all of the ugliness on screen, but it fit because it had to contrast with the fact of what happened when Bruce Willis goes off to do something else, and there's a hostage situation that goes down.
And it's right during the Christmas party.
Yes, right during the
Merry
Christmas party. Merry Christmas to all of you. Yeah. That is not what you expect to have happen. So yeah, I love the fact that they kept it real like that, but they did it for a reason. Totally did it. Totally did it for a reason. And I forgot he was in this. Johnny Davidson was in this. He was a limo driver. But yeah, this movie is one of my favorites.
And he made a list. So, this is important. And it's, of course, this is 30 years later that I'm even making this statement, because I'm sure when I watch this, I'm like, why is he writing on his arm? You know what I mean? I'm sure this was something that went through my mind. why is, that's a permanent marker. He's not going to be able to get that off. Like, that's what I was
No.
thinking when I watched this. And now, kind of, I'm realizing he's doing this because he had to protect his family and needs to keep track of who's there. This is serious. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows that this impossible situations, that scene, actually, this was another one that I had not seen in the theater. And I saw it at a Comic-Con. And Lorena, the scene where he's in the elevator shaft, it may not be an elevator shaft. It's like a ventilation shaft, in these larger, yeah, it was that scene. The one that, I think you just, a few ones back. One more. Yes, right here. This scene where he's, I guess it is an elevator shaft. I know what I'm saying. Maybe it's not the elevator shaft, and I apologize.
It was a
you
know what? It was, I know exactly which one you're talking about. It was the ventilation. This one.
Yes. Right before he's there, right before he's more kind of like on his laying down. He's holding on to this gun. That was another thing, because I was like, there's no way that gun's going to hold him. Like that gun can't, but they can. Like, they're made out of steel. They're durable guns. These guys came in with military grade weapons. So, at the time, I didn't know what that was when I first watched this thing. I probably was, how old was I in 1980? Well, I'm not going to say, let's just say I was very young, knew nothing about weapons. So he has this gun. I'm like, there's no way that could hold you. And, I remember my brother saying, no, it's like a much stronger gun. It's not an ordinary gun. It's, something that they use in the military. And those weapons, they're much stronger than, something you might pick up elsewhere. And he's like, it's probably steel. It's probably, made from very thick steel or whatever. So after I got over that idea, seeing it on TV was one thing. But when I saw it at that con, Lorena, and I saw how big that shaft looked, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. He had to overcome this fear of falling down to death, knowing what that would mean, holding on for dear life, grabbing on. I don't even think I could have tried to grab on the way he did, but he did it. And, I think that those scenes, once again, unless you see that in a theater, you can't understand how dangerous what he was doing, not just from fighting these guys, but navigating his way. I know I definitely couldn't get an elevator door open. He's like grabbing the thing, and I'm like, that would never happen. This is just the purest level of, dad saves the day. Dad saves the day. Doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter if they blew up the whole building. He is saving the day. He's walking out of there with you. Thank you, Daddy, so much. Thank you, Daddy Bruce Willis, so much for this Christmas gift. Thank you.
I know. I love this. I love this film so much. One of my favorite scenes of him was he's jumping like off the building, and there's the explosion in the background. He's hanging by like a thread. Oh my God. It was one of the funniest yet most intense action scenes like ever. And I'm like, wow, he went through all of that trying to save his wife. And not only that, but of course, he's also a cop too. So he's got the mental fortitude and the guts to pull something like this off or die trying. So he's gonna do that. And also, I think Reginald Vell Johnson, who also played a cop in Family Matters, he was in this movie.
Yes, he was. What was the character's name?
I forget the name.
No.
Yeah, I think it was Leroy. He was the cop who finds out later on that he'd shot a kid.
I gotta find out. This is killing me.
And he wasn't even supposed to be really on duty that night, but they send him out to Nakatomi Tower. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, there's nothing really going on. Hans Gruber and company are just like, no, it's fine.
Al.
Okay. They're like, nothing going on. He's like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll go. We did not expect that dead body to fall on his patrol car.
Oh, hell no. I didn't know that. I'm like, what the? And then when he's backing up, he's like, every year they come at it. Under attack. Wow.
Oh my gosh. I
would have been able to talk because I would have been in so much shock from that happening.
Oh No, it was nuts, and like you were saying about seeing it in a theater on that big screen when that body hit the car and
Very
then
different.
he's pulling back and it's just the sensation of, "Oh my god, this stuff is just crazy." It's absolutely intense. So it's like it's fabulous seeing it on, on the small screen, but there's just something
It,
psychologically just something that distorts your whole senses in a good way
yes.
when that all, like, went down. Oh my god, it
In
was
the
it
radio,
was
there was comedy in this, like, when he calls on the emergency frequency, he's like, "This is LA County, and, you are on a restricted channel." He's like, "Do I look like I'm joking around and eating pizza?" And I was like,
it was oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so good. Like, the comedy was good, all the acting was great, the action scenes are textbook. I mean, there's so many action movies that took so much from Die Hard, even
"Mhm,
callbacks to, Die Hard. Like, I'm forgetting which movie Adam Sandler was in, where I
yes."
think he was talking to some guy or interviewing him, he says, "Yeah, and I look forward to seeing some of your movies." And he's like, "What movies are that?" "All the ones where you try to kill Bruce Willis." 'Cause he looked and I'm oh my god, I'm blanking on the actor's name, and it's a darn shame, 'cause he was
Alan
Snape.
Rickman. Is it
Alan
Alan
Rickman, yeah, 'cause he played such a good oh my gosh.
He was
Hans
good.
Gruber is like the archetype of just that villain, that you have, but yes, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I don't care what y'all say, I watch it every Christmas, and I flipping
And we
absolutely
have,
love it.
Run DMC's, Christmas song. It's like, um
Christmas in Hollis.
yes, yes, that's how it starts off, I think. And he talks about cornbread and collard greens, and it's like, "Down, down, down, down."
Yeah, I love that every Christmas, every Christmas. I'm telling you, I think that was the first time that song appeared, like, in a movie,
Mhm,
and it's,
mhm.
like, been synonymous with Christmas ever since. So, yes, if you have not seen Die Hard, you need to flipping see
You
this movie,
need to see Die Hard, guys.
especially for Christmas.
Mhm.
So, we ready for number 2? You
Yeah.
ready for number 2?
Yeah.
Number 2, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Now, this movie right here, to me, I feel like it just I mean, you have Die Hard, but I also do not feel that it is Christmas until you have seen this movie. It is the quintessential, I would say, the quintessential 90s Christmas movie, family movie, where again, you have the dad who is just trying to make the perfect, perfect Christmas for his family. And well, it doesn't quite work out that way, does it?
It is truly, someone who finds Christmas to be the ultimate, family event, and everything in his being is wrapped around getting everything he wants for the Griswolds, for this family. He's got this stunningly beautiful wife played by Beverly D'Angelo. But he's a man, like he's a normal man, and he finds himself in sort of these sticky, funny situations that he didn't ask for. He didn't ask for a lot of the stuff that's happening to him, but he's trying so hard to make it all work. Like I think part of the story, he was going to use his Christmas bonus to buy the kids a pool.
Yes.
And I'm like, I really like this dad. This is this is very generous. He could be doing that to take a vacation with Beverly D'Angelo and leaving the kids at home.
Mhm.
But he wants to make everything so nice when was it his brother? Is that his brother or his brother-in-law who comes to visit in the trailer? And maybe it is
Oh,
this.
that's his cousin-in-law, Cousin Eddie.
Yes, and they come and, they don't have any gifts and they go out and they buy gifts, and we've seen this happen so many times, Lorena, where our parents will do this, time and time again, go and get
Mhm,
presents for, other kids, this desire so they can enjoy their Christmas as well. It's so
mhm.
important, that idea of giving back to other people, or even just, paying it forward. Maybe, maybe one day that kid will go ahead and do the same thing. But even so, you can't have people coming to your home and not have a present for them under the tree. The notion of that and the importance of that certainly gets put out in the film. He wants to make the decorations beautiful. He
My tree. What did you do to my tree?
Mhm. But we've seen this happens, like people's trees. Remember those real trees, and some of the artificial ones would catch fire. The
Yeah.
lights were not safe. I mean, God help us. I don't know how we're still alive, but
Mm-mm.
some of those Christmas lights were not safe, and the lights were pricey, so you saved them and you tried them all to make sure they worked. And then sometimes it did catch fire. It was an honest, real danger. Yes, absolutely.
We all know that,
All
girls.
these
Yeah.
Yeah, there were all these things. I remember my parents at the time, we had a fuse box. I mean, they don't even exist anymore, right? But we
Hmm.
had one, and, you'd have to buy these fuses, and, Christmas would be absolutely one of those holidays where the fuse would blow. Like, the fuse
Yeah.
is gonna get blown during Christmas.
Hmm.
So, there are those things to think about, and you just want the holiday to go off without a hitch and everything to be fine. And the dog eating Christmas dinner and things like that. Elements that come out, everybody waiting to see the most incredible carving you've ever. It's your
Hmm.
responsibility to make, you're lucky to even be invited over anyone's house, and then the responsibility of hosting that Christmas. But he really just wants to bring that spirit to everybody, down to his Christmas tie.
Hmm.
It's all about family. It's all about, bringing Christmas cheer. It really is maybe one of the nicest depictions of a father in a comedy setting, of course. Um,
I would have to agree with you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, that's I was saying, but in a comedy perspective, a lot of the things are meant as a comedy, and kind of having a laugh at some of the things that happen. Everybody knows that the Christmas tree isn't for us, it's for your cats. The cats
Yes.
are gonna be in that tree. The cats cannot remember anything once the cats see that tree. It's not their fault. They see the
They
tree, it's over.
Yeah, they see the tree and they're just like, "Okay, I have to climb up in the tree." I once had a kitten where it's like when he was a kitten, he decided, "Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and climb the Christmas tree and knock it over." And then a year after that, he was too fat to climb the Christmas tree, so he just kind of hung around on the bottom. But yes, cats, Christmas trees, ornaments. Professor X saw the Christmas ornaments and lost his mind. He was just like, "Oh my God, what the heck? What the heck is what the heck is that?" But to get back to like the family aspect and the comedy, one of the things that's so endearing about this movie is that it is comedy, but it's not at the expense of men. It's like everyone is fair game. Clark does stupid things, but he also does some very great heartfelt things. When he's trying to get all the lights to turn on the outside, and even though his in-laws are just like, "Yeah, okay, this is a waste of time," and his parents are like, well, I can see it in my mind, and you did a
Aw.
whole lot of work." And even the kids were like, "He worked really hard on it,"
Mhm.
and they were kind of like heartbroken that it wasn't working until, he tried to get Rusty to help him. He's like, "Oh, yeah, look at the time. I got to go to bed." But when he finally gets the lights to turn on, when his wife figures out what's going on with the fuse box, and
Yeah.
then she just lets him think that he figured it out, and it was just perfect how that how that happened. So it's just those little things. Even the part where finally Clark freaking loses it and he freaks out because he finds out he's not getting his bonus, which means that check that he wrote for $10,000 for the pool is gonna bounce, and he just loses it. He says, "You know what I wish? I wish somebody would drive up there and kidnap my boss, Mr. Shirley," played by Brian Murray, which is Bill Murray's brother, and said, "I want someone to just go up there and bring him back here. See how we live and wrap him up in a bow. And guess who went and got him? Cousin Eddie.
Mhm.
Frog marched him in with a bow. It's it's such a fun movie. So much fun. So many great uh family thing. Even the SWAT raid at the end.
Yes, and bonuses were a big deal back then, especially with some people, depending upon who you worked for. If you work for a private industry, it's part of your negotiated contract.
Mhm.
The company could shut down, but you're still getting your bonus. Like you'd get it. It was part of the agreement in the pay for a lot of people. Not getting a bonus, $10,000 is a lot of money. That might be like $50,000 now
Yeah.
for 1985. It was a lot of money to not get a bonus, knowing that he worked his ass off. Because
Mhm.
this man was one of those guys who, was in the office 9 to 5. Like he was there.
Oh,
So
yeah. He
yeah.
was working overtime even, to get the attention of the boss, Mr.
Mhm,
Shirley, that was a big deal. Like, "Yeah, I've been working on this," and,
mhm.
he's working really hard because he wants to provide for his family, to give his family a very comfortable life, and when that is threatened, we understand exactly why he winds up losing it. It's just like we're not surprised. We're kind of surprised at how crazy it is, considering he seemed to be the one who always had it together. And then finally, it's just like, you know what? If Clark can lose it like that, we can kind of all do the same thing.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the his boss's wife was surprised that he had stopped the bonuses. She was very
Yes, she
that.
said of all the lousy things to save a buck, I mean, she
Mhm.
literally laid into him because, like you were saying, bonuses back then were a big deal, and it was something that was expected, especially at the holidays, because they would
Yes.
also throw, I mean, they don't do it as much now, but they would throw these really, really big Christmas parties at the end of the year, basically as a way to say thank you for all your hard work. That's when people had to get their Christmas bonuses and extra stuff and, all of that. And people worked hard throughout the year because that was the custom.
Absolutely. And, this is, such a classic film now. I think anybody who anybody who likes comedy from this era knows of the film, but there
Mhm.
is that Christmas spirit in the film, obviously from the title. But a lot of the things we see happen in the film are really important in getting you in the holiday cheer and understanding the spirit of Christmas. So I love that it doesn't feel like an old film. It doesn't feel old.
No, no, it still feels just as relevant today as when it came out, and that's the reason why this film is so popular
Mhm.
around the holidays. So that is number 2. So we have one more left. I'm not surprised that it is number 1, and that would be the movie It's a Wonderful Life with James Stewart and Donna Reed. Now, have you seen this one before?
I have seen this one. Certainly, it is, actually on the list of, one of the greatest films ever made. Certainly, James Stewart's one of his defining roles as this man who, and I think it's what's important about it is that it is, or at least I believe it's set during part of the Depression, right, Lorena?
Yes, that is correct.
And so that was, unfortunately a very difficult time. In honestly, the depression affected everywhere on the
Mhm.
planet. But here we're talking about the United States, and it was the thing that stood out to me about this is, I think that a lot of films like to look at the idea of the person in the story, the main person, feeling that there's a solution, and the solution would be is if I wasn't even involved in this, things would be better. And,
Mhm.
we do see this in a lot of films that they kind of have that idea. The thing that I liked about this one was, while it's true that, You got to see some examples of what would happen if he wasn't there. We also witnessed certain things where the cooperation between everyone. For example, when the bank was there and someone wanted to
Mhm.
withdraw money, one of the ladies had said, "I want to withdraw $10.99." He's like, "You want to withdraw $10?" She's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why?" And she says, "I need a new broom." And it was the idea that she was willing to leave the rest of her money, which might have been $1,000 or $2,000 in the bank, because she trusted that the bank would be there tomorrow. And of course, this might
Mhm.
have been at a time even where there was no FDIC, where you have this banker's insurance
That's
where
correct. There
if it
wasn't.
fails, you don't get the $10,000, or I think it might
Mhm.
be $100,000 it's insured to, but and so that's a big concern for anybody who puts their money in a bank. Now you have this guarantee, but back then there wasn't any. So there was a huge amount of trust. And I think that it also like to kind of look at the idea of this community standing together and realizing that there's going to have to be a lot of this compromise in order for life to continue.
Mhm.
It wasn't going to be easy. And we saw that time and time again. Being a businessman during one of the biggest, or one of the most dramatic economic disasters in this country, was going to push you even to the further limit than you could possibly imagine. And this was a time when people were committing suicide. People were jumping off of buildings.
Yes.
People were found dead, with single, unfortunately having shot themselves to death. Suicides happened during the Depression, during stock market crashes. And unfortunately, it's something we even see today, where we see people who had fortunes. I can't remember which one it was. Was it the Bitcoin thing, where,
Yeah.
all of a sudden people are found, having taken their lives? And so I think that the idea of this is something that still resonates today, because we're still seeing people who have lost their
Mhm.
fortunes, or who have fallen out of grace, who have fallen, had this fall. And now, whether it's through fault of their own or not, they're thinking, the best way out of this is if I'm not here,
Yeah.
if I take my life. And we don't really know that that's the answer. So I would say, if anything, err on the side of positivity. Don't take your life. Just write it out and see what happens. But don't take your life. Things might turn around, and then you won't be around to see it.
Absolutely. And Amanda, thank you so much for being here. Says this is a great list, ladies. Thanks so much for streaming. I gotta go. So you all have a great
You
night. Well,
too.
you too as well, my dear. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. This movie was another one where it was like, "Oh, you have to see this movie for Christmas. It's a Wonderful Life. You have to
Yes.
see it." I'm like, "Is it really that good?" I'm like, "There's other things. I want to watch the Peanuts Christmas special. I want to watch Die Hard. I want to watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. There's other stuff
Mhm.
that I want to watch. Is this movie really that good?" And then a few years ago, I think I watched it on, did I watch it on YouTube? Either way, I sat down and I
You did.
watched it,
Mhm.
and something literally, if you do not, I mean, granted, we don't know what growing up in the Depression was like. I mean, I had grandparents who tell me stories. When you watch this movie, you see just how much the depression affected people, and especially for men, the ability to take care of your family, that your livelihood is taken away, so you can't provide for your family the way that you need to. It was devastating. It was absolutely devastating, and this movie just captured that hopelessness, and then with the angel kind of, "Well, this is what would happen if if you weren't here," and just to see, like, everything that would have happened
Yes.
if he wasn't around, and then just the way that it just built you up at the end. I think that's the best thing, and why this movie is so heartwarming, because one of the things that happens a lot near the holidays, and we've seen this, companies laying people off.
Yes. Yes. I mean,
And mhm,
it's one of the things that I think we've seen a lot of these announcements where people are in the situation. We've seen even the suggestion of it
Mhm.
is enough to damper your spirits. I mean, the announcements for in particular Disney, where they were talking about doing something
Mhm.
like that, and it really upset me. And I'm not an employee of Disney, but it still upset me because I know what this means to so many people. Lorraine, it's been a hard 2 or 3 years already, and now having to face even the notion of this, even the idea or the possibility of this. Um, Seeing this situation and seeing economically how things are, I can understand just honestly how disenchanted people can become. And it's at this time of year. It's at this time of year they know. Um, it just must be so heartbreaking. You feel for them. And this is essentially in this story, he's an entrepreneur, so he's the boss of himself, and
Mhm.
everything rides on him. So he has maybe a different influence over this town that he lives in. Maybe everybody banks with him. For all we know, everybody might have some coin in his bank. And
Mhm.
now if that bank folds, if he's first of all, if he dies, the bank folds. It's gone.
Right.
No one's getting their money back if this happens. So
Right.
all of that is lost. But keeping the bank open means that there's potential for people to get things like loans, to
Mhm.
take money out to go and do things they need, or put money in and reinvest in the bank. So, I think it economically, it's incredibly exhausting to figure out. But that's his job. He's a banker. He knows how to do this. Like this is
Right.
but the burden is on his shoulders when he realizes what's at stake, because
Mhm.
it's the entire economic system is based on a lot of elements in this banking system.
Mhm.
And so that is also weighing on his shoulders. And the family has so much confidence in him. And the town has so much confidence in him.
Mhm.
He's probably the last person they think would want to take his own life.
Absolutely. I love this movie. I'm glad I made time to sit down and watch it because it's so heartfelt. Positive depiction of family, positive depiction, of men, and it's a great heartfelt watch. So I would say again, if you're with somebody and they like the Hallmark movies and you've seen the Hallmark saccharine Christmas movies and they're just like, okay, what should I pick as like an alternative? You really can't go wrong with this.
I
You really
agree.
can't.
It's a Christmas classic. It's, as I said, one of the top, maybe in the top 100 films ever made. Just pure, beautiful, family entertainment. It's
Mhm.
100%, and any age can watch it, and people understand what's happening, and we are seeing those relationships between one another, where the family supports one another. The father does feel the responsibility of supporting the family, and he loves them, and he's going to do anything to make this work. He really is.
Yes.
Even the contemplation of killing himself, which we don't want him to do, he's even considering that to make things work out for them. So that's how much he's willing to sacrifice, let's say his happiness in his life,
Mhm.
in order to make things better for them. This is how serious this is. He's seriously considering, if he knew for certain that this would mean that his family would benefit, he would do it. He would do it.
Totally would without a doubt, and that's one of the great things about that film and why it's number 1. Number 1, on our list. So, folks, this has been absolutely amazing and such fun to go through these movies, with you guys. Our suggestions for manly Christmas movies to watch and a couple of honorable mentions and modern mentions, as well. So we certainly hope that you've enjoyed hanging out with us and, of course, sharing these films. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season and a Merry Christmas. And please do tell the folks where they can find you.
Well, guys, you can always find me on my channel, Positive Fandom, where I do my Sunday brunch show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, where we do all the parlay in the fandom. But you can also find me on Ladies of the PGS on the Burr Network with Lorena, as we talk about everything that's going on in entertainment on Monday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, either for Uncivilized Scoundrels or for Say What. And you can also find me streaming here with Lorena on her channel, either on Twitch or YouTube, for the multiple shows we do, or watch parties, certainly anime nights,
Mhm.
and of course, Toxic Male Appreciation here. But sometimes you can also find me on Midnight's Edge on Fridays at 12 Eastern, 12 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes you can find me on the Burn Network on Midnight Musings with Robert Meyer Burnett on our show on Friday nights. So please do check that out, and like and subscribe to Positive Fandom, please, guys.
Yes.
Um, and thank you for everybody for your support. And thank you for having me here, Lorena.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Love doing this show. Love doing this show with you. And yes, folks, of course, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on YouTube doing various live streams and videos. Of course, as Herm has pointed out, so many of them that we do together. So please do subscribe to her. Please do subscribe to me. Thank you all so much for watching this. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.